Here's something that I've seen that happens time and time again with a lot of good developers. They end up with the wrong design or wrong permit. And most of the time it happens because what they've decided to put on a block of land, or the design that they've decided either doesn't suit the market, or it costs a lot to build. And particularly this happens once they've got the permit, they've got it in their hand, they didn't follow the steps that I've already discussed earlier. They don't follow the steps. They've got the permit. They've spent their 30,000-40,000 to get the permit through council, and only to find out when they go to a builder, they say, oh, it's going to cost you X amount of money to build this thing. And then when you find out, okay, this is what you paid for land, this is what you spend on your planning permit or your DI, and that's what the cost of build is. And then the penny drops and they say, I won't be able to sell it, so I won't have any money in it. Or they say it requires a lot more cash injection from me and I can't really take it to the next level. So it comes back on the market saying site available with plans and permits. All the work has been done. It is for you. Go and grab it. But when you go and look at it and the price they want and what the site can give you, 9 out of 10 times it's very hard to stack it up. So at least in Victoria, I've seen that it's very hard to stack up a site that's got plans and permit. So being a good developer, it's good, but you got to make sure that you get the right design and you develop something, or you get a permit for something that's going to sell in the market. Great developers study the market before they sit down with their design consultants. So they understand what a design and product fit is, which basically means whether or not it's environmentally sustainable design, it's a cost-effective design. I can give you an example. For example, you wouldn't build inverted living where you haven't got views to the bay, or views to the ocean, or views to the beach, or whatever. So that's part of that, and there are so many different things here. It also, I'll give you another example. Another example is that a lot of good developers can't determine whether or not they should put a basement or car stackers. And a lot of people, even if they make car stackers, I just came across a site recently. It had a permit for 11 apartments ready to go, and they were asking too much. And I really liked the site because it was in a very good location. But when we actually got down to looking at the plans, we looked at the basement, and the basement was going to cost us twice. Had it designed in a different way. So we decided not to go ahead with it. So these are the things that a lot of people, a lot of good developers miss out. And if you understand what these factors are, you are careful when designing them, and you're talking to your consultants, and you direct your consultants to be able to come up with something based on the brief that you give them. And even if you agree to go ahead with something, you already know that, okay, this is what I've got to allow for it, and it still stacks up, so I am going to go ahead with it. So these are the things that you got to know when you get into the design phase. Obtaining permits, you got to understand how does the DA or the planning permit, or the BA, which is the building permit process, works. So that's with the permit. Good developers think that everyone is their customer. This is related to marketing nonetheless, and a lot of people think that if they build something, they will come and they will buy it. It doesn't work like that. So you've got to make sure that you understand the product place, promotion, price, and so on, and how that works with the kind of product that you're developing. And you've got to choose your customers and fire the ones that hurt your ability to deliver the right story. So say, for example, if you're developing something in an area and you've done your research to understand this is what the market is at, that's what they want in this area, that's what's selling, this is what I should develop. It doesn't matter what a handful of people might tell you that maybe instead of 2 bedrooms you should do 3 bedrooms. So you make an informed decision. So understand that you are going to appeal to a specific market, and don't try and develop something that you want to cater to everybody. So design develop product for a carefully researched audience, and you should know what your customer wants. And great developers understand how to market their developments. They understand the 80-20 rule, and I'm not going to reveal that here. It's available in the course. They also understand the future property supply in that area. They understand the product place, promotion price. They understand how to pick up their agent. They understand the pre-sale process, and they know how to monitor the progress of their campaign. It's not something like you've handed it over to your agent and everything will be okay. You got to be on him. You got to be on your agent at all the time and keep monitoring the progress of your development. So make sure you do that. The biggest bungle in development is construction, and you don't need to know anything. I'm not a builder, but I work with a builder, but I'm not a builder. And I'm doing a development. I live in Melbourne, but I'm doing a development in Brisbane, which is about to finish. It's 9 apartments, and I've dealt with other builders. So it's not necessarily that you've got to be a builder. So it's not like that I've got an edge because I do development here. I'm also doing developments interstate where I've outsourced the whole thing to another builder. So you got to understand, a lot of good developers, so to speak, don't understand how to choose a builder, what goes in the contract, what kind of insurances they need to have, and they don't know how to check and protect themselves. So good developers pay top dollar for variations. Don't get me wrong, they do it all the time. And you got to understand that a builder makes money if you have variations. So, and at the time of the variation, you can't really go back and negotiate with them because you've already negotiated a fixed price contract with them. So you got to understand how these things work. So great developers understand everything they need to cover their backside, and they understand the type of contractors, the contractor selection criteria, types of different contracts that you can do with the builder. They understand the tender process, what should be in a building contract, so that covers their backside. And before construction commencement, what happens, and the things that they need to know, how does the progress claim happens, and the retention clause, and the builders and defects liability period, and insurances, and how to make sure that the builder towards the end has done its job properly. So these are the things that great developers know, and it's all covered in the course. They kick back and relax because they are building. Happens all the time. It's a killer. You got to understand it properly, and a lot of good developers get caught out with this. Once the construction starts, they kick back and relax thinking, oh, the construction started, I've got to do nothing now. Because once the construction started, the finance switches, there are no installments, there's not a lot you got to do. But people get complacent when construction starts, and that's the time you got to make sure that you line up all your ducks for some things that are going to happen in future. So most of the good developers, they get caught out by not having the titles ready in time. So you can't settle with your pre-sales until you've got your titles ready. And for you to be able to get all your titles ready, there are a whole lot of other work that has to be done in the background, so that you have your titles ready in time when the construction is complete. So that you can settle within a week after you've been handed over your development. So this causes delays in settlement, it costs you more in interest, and it evaporates profits. It's because at that time you have drawn down your complete construction loan. So whatever your construction loan is, $1 million or 1.5 mil or whatever, you are paying interest on the full amount. And if you haven't got that ready by that time, you're paying anywhere between $400 to $1,000 a day. Your settlements are delayed. So make sure that great developers make sure that they've got their eye on the ball and they've lined up all their ducks, so that you can plan their subdivision, their plan of subdivision. They got to plan that ahead of time. You got to make sure that the occupancy permit, the builder gives them the occupancy permit quicker, and settlement and handover packages are all ready to rock and roll, basically. So these are some things that good developers do and great developers do. A lot of good developers usually don't have a post-completion strategy in place, and it happens because they don't know what they will be left with at the end of it all. And that's related to your financial feasibility and having your cash flow all sorted out at the beginning of the project and making sure that you know exactly what's left out. It's very difficult to pinpoint the exact amount to the dollar or to the last cent that you'll be left with towards the end. But if you've done your feasibility quite correct, you should be in the right range. And great developers have a carefully crafted wealth generation plan towards the end of it. And that actually stems from having the right mindset, having the right strategy. What is your strategy going to be when you start, when you finish? Your goals or outcomes that you're expecting, your investing approach, your ability to do no money down deals, and your strategy towards the end, which is basically, are you going to develop and sell, or are you going to develop and hold? So you got to understand all of these, and great developers do, and I cover that in my course.